Hey, blessings, and thank you for tuning in to our YouTube channel. We ask that you subscribe, like, and hit on the notification buttons to see more videos like this. Right. And Lamont, I see you unmuted. You want to chime in on this?
Well, excuse me, I forgot to mute, but I'm just listening, and what it tells me, because it just seems that it's intentional chaos in society, and that's why it's so important to find those people that we have common interests and goals, and that group of people must come together because outside of that is total just confusion. And just like when you said you wanted to be with your peers, you kind of touched me a little bit because I remember at a young age when I was told, don't do this, but I wanted to be with my peers.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I remember having some boundaries because of some younger, earlier training, but some of the benefits of us coming together, because when we create our own, then our children can be with their peers, that and these peers that they're with now believe in morality. They're not put in a situation to choose peers outside of morality because they want to have a little fun or whatever they want to do. But just looking at it now, the elderly people are scared of the youth, and the youth disrespect the elderly.
Right.
So they will say and do all kind of things in the front of the elderly, and the elderly are scared to walk in their own communities because of the division. Um, and I say it all happens because of what we did or what we didn't do. And we even talk about our youth. They're in that condition because either what we did or what we didn't do. But if we're still able today, we have to find our like minds and create our own so that our children can be with their peers, but these peers that they're with now believe in morality or godliness and doing things are just ethical. But I'm just listening, Brother Jeremiah, really enjoying the conversation. But as I hear you all talking, and just thinking of ideas of when I was younger and what made me want to venture out. And fortunately, early teachings, I had boundaries because I remember in high school that drugs was kind of running rapid, the cocaine. Well, I was just scared of venturing that far. But I remember probably about 5 years from that, then the crack came into the community. And it was more, there were people, more youth accepting this way of life. And again, it was peer pressure, peer pressure. Um, some of the things, and I contributed to early biblical teachings that I just wouldn't venture with so far. But now I look more for a solution, and that is put my children or grandchildren in an environment with peers that believe in ethics and morals. Because if we keep sending them to this society, institutions, all it does is cripple them and then make it more difficult for them uh, to believe in morality, or it becomes a fight in them. I was talking to a youth and I was sharing some things that and it stemmed where I was purchasing something that cost $3,000. I had to put $1,000 down, and when I came back to give him the other 2,000, he thought I only owed him 1,000. But I told him, no, I owe you $2,000, and I want you to realize, see, I believe in morality for real.
Hmm.
So when I told this other person, that one time that had to be a fight, they said to me, "Well, Lamar, that was never a fight for me because I was raised up in a way where I wasn't exposed to immoral teachings. I was exposed to righteous teachings. And I had to listen to that because I had to overcome immorality. They was exposed to morality at a young age, and they choose to follow that. And now they're strong enough to resist the wiles of this world. So again, we need to really uh, create our own, because as long as we're looking at this society as the way of life, and when you look at we all we do is raise our children, we put them in school, come back home, we come home, fix them dinner, tell them to do their homework, send them to school the next day. And when you evaluate the time that we spend with our children, as opposed to the hours they're away from us, the time we spend with them can't compete with the 60 to 70, in some cases 80 hours a week of this world. And they may get 1 to 2 hours of some quality time for us. We're not being fair to them to expect them to be different
Right.
with those kinds of numbers in terms of time we spend with them. And I'm gonna stop there. But I'm really enjoying the conversation. It
We
makes
got
me
a
see
chat coming in.
more. We
Yep,
need our own.
we do have
Yeah.
one in the chat, and that's part of that being conscious. See, you have to be conscious of that.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to be conscious of that to make a difference. If you're not conscious of it, you can't make a difference. But in the chat, it was posted that morality is steadily being destroyed or removed in this society, and it is an all-out attack on morality and common sense.
Mm-hmm. You know, and to the person in the chats point, and also to Amon's point, when you like, and I think I alluded to it a little bit earlier. Um, the youth nowadays, like when we talk about the school system, they create their own institutions in social media. They have an institution that they create themselves. That's why they can block you, parents. They can block everybody, and it goes back to they define their own. They define more morality in their own terms, and they good with it. You got to remember, you know. And I don't. I hate to. I'm align it with the philosophy of religion. There's a lot of dogma in religion, but the reason why people can believe in all that dogma is a lot of people believe like that. And it's easy for you to believe like someone else is if you all have the same belief. You may not be able to give anybody any understanding of it, but guess what? The pastor believe it, my sister believe it, my mama believe it, my grandma believed it. We all believed it. This is the same thing going on in this society with the youth. If you got a number of them
It's
that,
contagious.
yeah. So if you done redefine the word morality, and it means something totally different from what you and I may deem morality to be, then you have a system of them, a number of them that believe like this, and that's why you find this new standard of nowadays you can't say anything is coming no more. It don't make come like you can't say you don't have any common sense because what's coming isn't
Not common anymore.
it's not common anymore. It's a whole nother definition of it, and it's a whole nother way of defining it. And I think that's what we're dealing with in this society. It said the state legislature adopted a law known as the Stop Woke Act, and the acronym standing for wrong, wrong to our kids and employees. The bill was also known as the Individual Freedom Act as well. Now, in this here bill, and I'm gonna name some of this here, and we'll talk about it a little bit. It said laws prohibits teaching certain concepts related to race, prohibited teachings that were, and it was 8 of them, I believe. Let me see here. Yeah. All right. So a pamphlet from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' office on the Stop Woke Act members of one race, color, nationality, origin, or sex are morally superior to members of another sex, a race, race, color, nationality, origin, or sex. So you can speak about another race being superior to another race. And that's what we're talking about, the books, and we're talking about them. We're going to get to that. Number two, a person by virtue of his or her race, color, national origin, or sex is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously. Again, we're talking about that. A person more character or status as either privileged or oppressed is necessarily determined by his or her race, color, national origin, or sex. And I still think we're on the same topic when it's talking about, we talk about racism. A person by virtue of his or her race, color, natural origin, or sex bears responsibility for or should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment because of actions committed in the past by other members of the same race, color, national origin, or sex. Now, this is my first time kind of reading through this. Let's let the listening audience know. A person by virtue of his or her race, color, national origin, or sex should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment to achieve diversity, equity, or inclusion. A person by virtue of his or her race, color, sex, or national origin bears personal responsibility for and must feel guilt, anger, or other forms of psychological distress because of actions in which the person played no part committed in the past by other members of the same the same race, color, national origin, and then it says such virtues as merit, excellence, hard work, fairness, objectivity, and racial colorblindness are racist or sexist or were created by members of particular race, color, natural origin, or sex to oppress members of another race, color, national origin, or sex. Now, this is the bill that was implemented, this woke bill. And we were talking about the word woke and how they define and deem the word woke, and then why, you'll find some of the media talk against the word woke, because apparently materials that are being presented in the school, and which you and I know, and some of you may know, material of critical race theory, which was one of the things. And we talked about the critical race theory, and I just want to share before we go into it, because we're going to dig into it, but I'm going to share a quick video from Dr. Cornel West, just kind of talking about critical race theory.
So let me bring up a big fight that was on display recently in American politics, and that's the fight about critical race theory. I'm not sure that there are many people, even in this audience, who can define it, to be quite honest. And I was shocked the other day to see half of Republicans in a Monmouth poll said they oppose teaching the history of racism in U.S. schools. I don't know how you teach about the 13th Amendment, the 14th Amendment. I don't know how you teach about President Lincoln or the Civil War. I don't know. But anyway, clearly, this is a point of political rage at the moment. Professor West, let me ask you to begin here. How do you deal with something like this? Especially when people will say, you know what, that's it for me, I'm out of here, or I'll attack my school board member.
What does critical race theory mean to you? What do you associate it with? Because I wrote the foreword to the text, right? Critical race theory, 1992, Kimberly Crenshaw, Kendall Thomas, they asked me to write the foreword. And the forward is, we all have lens through which we view the world. No theory is kind to us that cheats us of seeing. We have to be able to see all the different dimensions, all the different aspects and facets of America, which is the best and the worst, the mountaintops and the valleys, the ugliness and the beauty. That's true for every social experiment, not just the United States. That's true for ourselves inside of our soul, the best and the worst. So when a Republican brothers come to me and say, oh, critical race theory, I don't want to have anything to do with racism, I say, oh, well, let's get to your wound. Let's get to ways in which you feel as if that very phrase pulls the rug from under you. And I'd have to listen to see what they have to say. Then I would say, now, let's see what kind of loving correction I can enact to get you to see that critical race theory is simply one set of lens that looks at the world, looks at America through the lens of those who were enslaved, Jim Crow, Jane Crow, lynched, discriminated against, degraded, debased. And then look at what they produced. Musically, artistically, politically, spiritually. You see. And what they produced is part of the very leaven in the American democratic loaf. That's the crucial thing. If black folk had produced a massive movement of the Ku Klux Klan when they were being terrorized, there'd be no American democracy. America would have gone fascist a long time ago. But here come Martin King, here comes Fannie Lou Hamer, here comes Ella Baker. What is it about these folk that their dominant leadership looks at the world through the lens of their own suffering and connects their suffering with the suffering of others? Multiracial solidarity, human connection, and so forth. That's a moral and spiritual issue. It's not just political. But once you lose that moral and spiritual dimension, then it's just all Machiavellian all the way down. It's power, 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 and nobody wins. That eye for eye, blind, tooth for tooth, toothless, that Brother Martin used to talk about, you see. So we'd have to create a context where people can get a sense that critical race theory is not this kind of fetishized entity that is an attack on me, an attack on my whiteness and so forth. I'm going to be white. I was born white. I'm dying white. John Brown was white. Miles Horton was white, whose wife co-wrote We Shall Overcome, which is the anthem of the Black Freedom Movement. And we haven't even got to Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, who could write a telegram to the president and say, we need to forfeit our right to worship unless we treat these Negroes with dignity and sanctity. And he wrote that the day he was going to show up in the White House. I said, you don't get that kind of prophetic witness these days. No. So that whiteness can't be reduced to white supremacy. You got a whole lot of white brothers and sisters fighting against white supremacy. They just got a lot of cousins who never got the memo. That's a different thing. That's a different.